Tojo Fitness Podcast this Thursday morning.
How can it be Thursday again?
Where has the week gone to? So we're coming to you to bring some news and information about fitness and health and all things bodybuilding and diet and nutrition related.
Yeah, today we've actually got quite an interesting subject. I find this really interesting. And we're actually going to be looking at brain health today.
Yeah, and particularly how brain health ties in with an aspect of nutrition. We're talking about omega-3s and how that ties in to your brain health. We all want good brain health. If you've got great brain health, you feel good.
You do, but also, I know for me that I look at my family kind of heritage, and my nan had Alzheimer's, and a little bit of dementia in there too. And so obviously I want to eat the right things that will kind of like force that away from me, like getting any earlier than what it needs to be. To be honest, I'd like to eradicate it altogether.
And the good thing is that we're discovering that through nutrition, we've known for many years that through nutrition you can avoid a lot of the physical ailments and eliminate a lot of those that affect your body. But the brain is part of your body. And we've often seen the brain as something totally separate and haven't realised how...
Sometimes I feel my brain is totally separate.
Sometimes at 8 o'clock in the morning, But we haven't realised just how... just the food we eat can drastically affect our brain, can drastically affect our mental health and our mental state and our mental prognosis in the future. And so we're going to talk today about omega-3s. Now, here's something with some great factoids for you. Despite making up only about 22% of your total body weight, 2% your brain is the hungriest organ in your body. Did you know that?
Wow, 2% of your body weight. So take your body weight, like for me, I'm like just coming up 51 kilos, I think. So 2% of my 51 kilos is my brain.
Yes.
Apparently though, when you have an MRI, your brain just looks like a walnut.
Well, you have a 1 kilo walnut.
I have a 1 kilo walnut.
But did you know that your brain uses about 25% of your calorie intake at rest? So when you're at rest, 25% of the calories you're burning, it's your brain that's burning them. That's insane.
Brain power. That's probably why you need a good breakfast in the morning, though, is right.
Absolutely.
Like to actually put more cheese in the mouse in the brain. You can hear it whirring round.
Keep the cogs going.
Yeah.
Now, because of that, nutrients are important. It's not just important just to put just any old food in the machine. You want to put the best foods in the machine you can to get the best results.
Is picky.
Yeah. I mean, you know the old thing in business: if you pay peanuts, you employ monkeys. So the idea here is you want to put the very best food you can in your brain to make it work. And one of the best things you can eat for your brain health are the omega-3 fatty acids. And we hear a lot of people talking about these, but what are the omega-3s? I'm glad you asked me.
Oh, yes.
There are three types of omega-3 acid. We're not going to talk them. The names are very difficult, things like alpha-linoleic acid and stuff like that.
Blah, blah, blah.
We're going to call them ALAs, DHAs and EPAs because that's easy.
A DHA, isn't that like benefits?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. Anyway.
But ALAs are essential fatty acids. DHAs and EPAs, your body can produce those out of ALAs.
Right.
But ALAs you have to take into your body. You can't get them. Your body can't produce them out of other things.
Yeah.
ALAs, DHAs, EPAs. This is the group of fats. They're good fats. We call them the omega-3s.
The omegas.
That's the one.
Omega. Yeah, so ALA doesn't sound like we say in the word ALAs, are found in seeds like, for example, flax seed. Flax seed you can actually pick up in supermarkets. They're great for sprinkling on your breakfast. Linseeds as well. Chia seeds and hemp, as well as walnuts. But these are things you can actually like sprinkle on your porridge or on your Weetabix, just like a little teaspoonful, just popping them on.
Just think walnuts, that the
Walnuts.
The picture is in what they look like. Walnuts look like brains. They're good for brain health. They're actually good for another sort of health of another thing that they look like, which we're not going to talk about today.
Oh, no, we
but
won't go
brain
there.
health is what they're incredibly good for. So just think
on a
about
postcard,
that.
folks.
Little walnuts are great for brain health.
Yeah.
The next time you see a walnut, you'll immediately think of brains.
Brains.
Or the other thing.
Yeah.
Let's stick with brains.
Yeah. So the others, which are like DHA and EPA, you'll find those in oily fish. So omega-3s, you'll find that they're largely the content of oily fish. So salmon, who doesn't like a bit of salmon?
Oh, yeah.
Mackerel, anchovies, although I don't like anchovies on pizza, just saying. Sardines, herrings, pilchards and trout. Now, if you're vegan, and obviously you don't eat the above, you do need to make sure that you actually get your omega-3 by supplements.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll talk about that a little bit in later towards the end of the
So
podcast.
just covering those again: salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, herrings, pilchards, and trout.
And also in fresh caught tuna, not the canned stuff. They take it, they remove it.
Really?
Yeah, they take it out of canned tuna because they then process it and use it for something else.
Whoa.
They can get more money out of your tuna. But if you get a nice piece of tuna that's fresh caught, then tuna itself is a oily fish.
Okay.
So how do they affect brain health? Well, ALAs, that's the stuff you find in walnuts and flax seeds and so on. They're found in the mitochondria of the cells. Now, we're going to get a little bit technical here.
That's all right. This is quite interesting.
Don't fall asleep. But the mitochondria in your cells are the powerhouses. They generate power and energy for your body. But in terms of brain health, it's DHA and EPAs that we need to focus on. And these fats have played an important role in not only our brain developing when we're in the womb as a fetus, but ongoing.
Yep.
DHA, did you know it makes up 36% of the membrane, the outer wall, of your brain cells?
Wow.
It also regulates the behaviour of neurons and cell signalling.
Now here's the thing. I think we'll all resonate with that, where sometimes we feel that our brain is not connected to our body. So, for example, when you're like, I want to do a particular action with my body, it feels like there's a clog, like something's stopping, like the signal getting from my brain to my hand or my leg.
But one of the problems, of course, is that often the signalling doesn't go from one part of the brain to a different part of the brain. The brain is essentially made up of synapses, which are the points of communication between
They're like
brain
signal
cells.
posts
Signal posts.
At train stations, right?
They're the point where neurons meet. Neurons meet at synapse. So your brain is filled with billions and billions of neurons.
Yeah.
And at the end of each of those is a little, let's call it like a little bobble, a little synapse. And those synapses send electrical signals from one synapse to the other.
Wow.
And so it's like passing a message on from one person to another.
Just a tick. Electrical messages.
Yes.
That's mind-blowing.
Yes, they don't actually write things down and pass them along.
No, it's not pigeon carrier. Sometimes it feels like pigeon carrier, but they're electrical. They're transmissions.
Yes.
Of electrical and chemical messages from one brain cell to the next. It's a bit like Chinese whispers.
Absolutely. But the problem is, of course, is that if the message can get distorted between one synapse and the next, or it can fail to make the connection altogether. And one of the things which is essential in that transmission, making that transmission good, is DHA, which you get from oily fish.
Yes, which is found obviously in above the list of fish. Or again, if you're vegan, from your omega-3 supplements.
So, without omega-3s, your brain is going to be foggy, it's not going to work properly, it's
brain
going to
fart.
It's basically going to keep misfiring.
I used to get brain farts a lot.
When you were on chemo?
Oh, on chemotherapy, my brain, I just couldn't process like even a recipe. I couldn't follow a recipe and actually process it. So the electrical signals were just not happening.
Then the signals are getting corrupted between neuron to neuron, and a lot of that has to do with the effects of chemo and how it strips your body of nutrients.
Yes.
So DHA, it also influences the activity of certain genes, particularly those involved in fat metabolism in your liver. So it helps maintain healthy blood vessels, which is also essential for brain health. Without that, your blood vessels themselves aren't healthy. Now imagine your brain. What's fueling your brain? Your brain is filled with blood vessels, and imagine if you had all the blood vessels stop working to your hand.
Yeah.
Have you ever woken up in the night and you can't find your hand?
Yeah.
Because your arm's gone numb. Right? And it's because the blood stopped circulating. You perhaps cut off the blood or something. And you can't. And that's a little bit like what happens in your brain as well. Yeah. Without great, flexible, healthy blood vessels in your brain just can't operate very well.
But it's also really cool that it actually helps your vision.
Yeah.
So, all the things that you see, like I know with my nan suffered with her eyesight, my nan suffered with Alzheimer's and dementia. Things like having oily fish can actually delay the onset of that.
Yes, it can.
And the thing is that DHA, so that particular fatty acid, actually makes up 50 to 70% of the fats in the light receptor in your eye, and actually maintains the shape of your retina at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, there are fats in your eye.
Well, what's incredible is that we think of beta carotene and eating carrots for good eyesight, but DHA,
which is true too.
It is true, but by no means is it as powerful as eating oily fish. Of course, the reason why we think of carrots is because of the advertising that was done during the war about growing carrots. So then you can see the Luftwaffe coming over and so on and so forth. They couldn't get oily fish, so it made obvious sense to talk about beta carotene. Here's another thing. Both DHAs and EPAs transform in your body to produce compounds that help to resolve inflammation.
Inflammation is... That's a kind of, there's a positive and a negative there, isn't there?
Yeah, sure. So when you have a illness or an injury, inflammation is how your body responds to that to try and deal with it. You know, if you hit your thumb with a hammer, it blows up like a balloon, right? Yeah,
inflammation.
Now that happens on a thumb level, but it also happens on a cellular level as well. And so it blows up, and it creates inflammation, which helps to protect and helps to bring healing. But the problem is...
Is it like an airbag in a car?
A little. Of course, one of the problems is that left unchecked, inflammation can start to attack your body's healthy tissues, including your brain. And one of the tests they do, a general test they do, you can have the blood tests to check for inflammation markers. And if you're healthy, if you don't have a cold or flu or anything like that, your inflammation levels should be very, very low. If they're not and they're raised, that's generally a good indication that there's something wrong. The inflammation is high, it predisposes you for a lot of diseases. So we want inflammation, unless you're fighting an illness, to be right down low, which is why we talk about turmeric and these things that fight inflammation. But increasingly as well, right now, with COVID, inflammation, one of the reasons COVID is so dangerous is it creates this cytokine storm within the body and sends your inflammation, it turns your immune system and the inflammation against its own your own body. Yeah. So the omega-3s really help to...
that's what's called like an autoimmune disease, isn't it? Yeah.
So it helps to damp all that down, a bit like a firefighter, calming it down. Now, we're coming back to mental health because this all contributes to mental health conditions like depression and neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's and multiple sclerosis and stuff like that.
I think it's just amazing. I think we downplay the effect of the food that we eat and the effect that it has on our body.
Yeah.
I think we can downplay that a lot, and I don't know whether that's been through like education, perhaps like advertising, almost sometimes like putting our head in the sand of the effects of the food that we can eat. And this has such a positive effect on our body. It's pretty much it's actually overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah. I was speaking to somebody just this morning who's a physiotherapist, and she was saying that the incredible thing about the body is that give it the right tools, give it the right circumstance, situations and nutrients, it will normally heal itself.
That's just, that is... Sometimes you just have to take a moment to take it in, don't you?
Yeah. So what we try and do with Tojo Fitness and particularly with Peak Nutrition is to try and get everything balanced in your body so your body does the work for you.
Yeah.
It just sorts itself out as you're going along.
Yeah.
Now, depression, did you know this? Depression is the leading cause of global disability. There's nothing in the world, far more than cancer and strokes and all these and heart disease, nothing creates more disability in the world statistically than depression. Now, it's complicated. Yeah. And there's lots of different contributing factors. But we have found, and increasingly there are studies coming in, good studies, meta-analysis of studies, where they're discovering that around just a supplement of 1 grams per day of EPA has been found to effectively reduce depression, probably because of the anti-inflammatory action.
Yeah, so again, just always coming back, EPA is one of the omega-3s, one of the omega-3 acids that we've been referring to, which has an anti-inflammatory content to it.
Yeah, so we talked about inflammation. In the absence of a cold or something like that, inflammation we want to keep down. If inflammation goes high, our body goes out of whack and our brain goes out of whack, and we saw that the synapses aren't firing properly, we're miscommunicating, and that leads to depression.
But also, I don't know, you'll probably say yes to this and resonate with it, that when you start cutting out crap food from your diet, it can often make you feel better mentally. And so what happens is putting healthy fats into your brain actually promotes better brain health, better mental health. Because you're putting healthy fats in, things that it's actually able to use to energise.
One of our clients came back to us a while back and they said, after we changed their diet, they said, I can't believe it. I didn't realise that this is what I was meant to feel like.
Yeah.
I've spent so much of my life feeling crap and thinking that's what I'm meant to feel like. Changing my diet, all of a sudden, I feel differently, I think differently, I have more positive energy and so on. Now, it gets better. It gets even better. Is that we, in the past, until recently, we thought that when you were born with pretty much all the brain cells you would ever have. Now, the problem with that is sometime in our late 40s, our brains start shrinking by about 1 to 2% a year.
Oh, no.
So your 1 kilogram not walnut you've got there, babe.
Peanut?
So walnut is going to get smaller.
But not yet, because I'm not 40 yet.
Me first,
yes,
right?
You're first.
So the problem is we thought until recently that that's inevitable and there's nothing we can do about it. But studies have shown that the adult brain is actually capable of creating new brain cells. And this is a process called neurogenesis.
Wow.
And this is important for overall brain health because it's been found that low levels of neurogenesis is associated with more severe depression, but in particular with brain aging. And that's exactly what we'd expect. We're losing brain cells as we age. The brain cells are getting old and are not firing as well as they did. Imagine any muscle. Imagine you've got a bicep and you don't train it, and that bicep gradually degenerates. But what if you could increase the amount of cells inside that muscle and grow it through hypertrophy, which is exactly what bodybuilding does. then you're going to offset the effects of aging. This is exactly how the brain works through neurogenesis.
So you often see like people on the Mediterranean diet. I'm just going to go off piste a little bit here. Especially people, Mediterranean diet, I don't know, the Italians and the Spanish, and they live in longer.
Yeah.
There's studies that they have less Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yes.
Because their omega-3s, because of the level of fish that they're eating, is actually promoting good brain health and lowers the effect of depression over there as well. Now, I know sunshine also helps to that.
Yeah.
But also there's another factor here at work, which is your DHA.
Well, DHA has been shown to promote neurogenesis.
New brain cells, people. It's possible to create new brain cells.
And particularly in the hippocampus. The hippocampus is a part of the brain...
Hippocampus.
...which is particularly involved for memory and learning. Oh, here we go. And the lights come on now. The hippocampus is the seat of memory and learning, and neurogenesis is particularly active there. So it's also the area of brain first and most severely damaged in Alzheimer's disease.
So that's when you start forgetting things.
Yeah. What if, and this is where it's very exciting research going on, what if we can, through neurogenesis, this is how scientists are hoping to reverse Alzheimer's in time, by producing neurogenesis on a large scale within the hippocampus. But we've found that through a lifetime of good eating, you can do that anyway. Remember what the physio said, is that if you provide your body with the right foods, it will do what it needs to do anyway.
Yeah.
So consistently, clinical trials of omega-3 supplements have shown increase in hippocampal neurogenesis in the adult brain.
That was a long sentence there, wasn't it?
That was, wasn't it? That's pretty impressive. But people who eat, let me put it this way, people who eat diets rich in fish and seafood have larger hippocampi.
Or a larger seat of memory and learning, shall we say? Yes. They
have a larger hippocampi and an overall brain volume. You just have a bigger brain compared with people who don't eat much.
All right, big brains.
So this is it. I mean, this is incredible.
Wow.
This is clinical trials. Omega-3 supplements grow the size of your brain.
Come on, people. So, like trying to grow your muscles.
Yeah.
The brain is the muscle you can grow.
Yeah, so if I'm going to the gym,
boom,
and I want to bodybuild and grow big biceps, the first thing we're going to say to people is you need to up your protein intake. If you want to grow a healthy big brain, the first thing we're going to say is you need to up your omega-3s.
It's funny, isn't it, that fish can do that?
Incredible.
Yeah.
So what are the takeaways here? So the takeaways is this: the omega-3s are vital for the formation and activity and function of brain cells, but they're important for anti-inflammatory.
Yeah. Most importantly, I think with omega-3s is they delay brain aging.
Yes.
That's a mega takeaway. And if you're listening to this, I don't know, you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, and you're like, I don't need to worry about that yet. You know, I don't need to. Well, here's the thing: is that if you start on this diet now, you're sowing into a better future for your mind and your brain.
Yeah. Here's the take home for you, folks: EPAs and DHAs aren't efficiently produced in your body, but you can get them already preformed in oily fish.
Wow.
So aim for 1 to 2 servings of oily fish every week. More if you want. A couple of servings, 2 or 3 servings of oily fish every week is great. We do that every single week.
We do. We have salmon and mackerel. Salmon
and mackerel largely. You know, if you don't eat a lot of fish, or if you're vegan or vegetarian, then you need to be looking at a supplement that contains both EPAs and DHAs. And there are vegan supplements out there. They are made from algae.
Yeah.
Which sounds so appetizing as a bit of salmon.
Oh, I guess you could find it along Margate seafront.
But that's why. So this has been the background as to why nutritionists say eat oily fish. Why they badger on again and again and again, eat oily fish. Now you know.
Yeah. And here's the thing is that I think it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I did not like oily fish. I didn't like salmon. I didn't like mackerel. But the thing is that in the supermarkets now, there's so many different options of these. So just with a little bit of flavouring, just to give you a little bit of a take home, I do my salmon and I put smoky barbecue powder on my salmon and I put it in the oven baked for 15 minutes in tinfoil, a couple of bit of jalapenos, and it's lovely. And mackerel, you can get like spicy tomato mackerel in the supermarket.
Very nice.
So it kind of like, it just gives you an extra bit of flavour if you don't like the fish taste.
And don't forget the nuts, the chia seeds, the walnuts.
Flax seeds.
That's it. Yeah. So we hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you've been educated and received some encouragement to go out and go fishing today.
Go grow your brain.
Indeed. This is Tojo Fitness. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast.